Alright all, and welcome back to a new video and day 2 of the Royal Ascot 2021 day by day videos here on Blair White's blog. Really hope you enjoyed the day 1 preview, and hopefully by the time you're watching the day 2 preview we may have backed a winner or two. This is obviously, as you can tell from the top, I haven't been wearing the same top for 2 days in a row. This is being recorded on the Monday as well. It's around 5 o'clock on Monday at the moment. This will be going up by, it's around 6, half 6 on Tuesday, so just bear that in mind, that I haven't seen anything that's happened so far. So hopefully we have had a decent first day and we can move on to day 2, where I've got a lot of big price selections, I must confess. I'm trying to keep things, I'm trying to adopt that philosophy like I adopted in the likes of Aintree and Punchestown. When you can land just one or two of those big price winners, you think of the Foxy Jackses or Brahma Bulls, or maybe even at Cheltenham, you think back to Black Tears and Mrs. Milner and those sort of horses. It just makes your week if you can land one or two of them. So they are probably a little bit ropey, and as a result you will get a few of them that won't run very well. But overall, hopefully something can run well, and if one of them does land, we can have a good week. But let's start off with the 2:30, the Queen Mary over 5 furlongs for Group 2 fillies for 2-year-olds. And I quite like Gavin Cromwell's horse in this. Quick Suzy at 12 to 1 each way with 5 places available. 12 to 1 seems a good enough price. Quick Suzy is exactly that. She is very quick. She won her maiden on her second start by 5.5 lengths at the Curragh, really impressively that day, and then went on to a Group 3 race over 6 furlongs at Naas on soft ground. If you stopped that race a furlong out, you would have thought she was going to absolutely sluice up. She was treading water near the end and got picked off by a Fuzzy Stack newcomer. Over 6, as I say. She just ran out of petrol that day. She was well clear of the well-fancied Aidan O'Brien filly, Contarelli Chapel, and I think that was still a very good effort. This drop back to 5 furlongs onto a bit of nicer ground as well, I think is sure to suit. With Gary Carroll booked, I reckon they'll let her fly, and hopefully she can get home over this 5 furlongs and put in a really good performance. At 12 to 1, I think she's a big enough price to tempt me into back her each way. The 305 is the Queen's Vase, and I'm going to be siding with the Derby trial form from Leopardstown. I'm going to be going here for Taipan for Shane Foley and Jessica Harrington. Obviously, Bolshoi Ballet was awfully disappointing in the Derby. I think you can just write that off. It's a bad day. He obviously was struck into. It was a bad cut on the behind. On one of his hind legs, as you could tell from the photo. If you weren't on Twitter, go and search it up, that photo of him after the race. It didn't look very nice actually, but previous to that, Bolshoi Ballet had looked absolutely excellent, and he'd beaten Taipan a few times in a few Leopardstown Derby trials where Taipan had shaped really nicely. And the last day at the Curragh, Taipan was a little bit disappointing, but Jesse's horses didn't run brilliantly that weekend. I don't know whether it was because of the ground, and also this horse looks like he was just a little bit one-paced. I think the step up to 1 mile 6 is interesting. He's not sure to get it because he has been running over 10 furlongs. It's a big half-mile step up in trip. But that being said, I think it's worth a try, and at 11 to 1 you're able to take that chance at an each-way price. And Taipan will be my selection for the Queen's Vase. The 340, the Duke of Cambridge Stakes over a Group 2 for a mile, over a mile for fillies and mares. Champs-Élysées in there for Johnny Murtagh, Queen Power. It's a very good race. Lady Bowthorpe, who was second to Palace Beer last time out in the Lockinge Stakes, is your favourite. That being said, I'm going to have to be very loyal to a filly that ran a super race for us at Epsom just a couple of weeks ago, Parents' Prayer. I think she's well overpriced here at 16 to 1. I think she's more than capable of maybe taking this step up in class and running a very big race in Group 2 company. You look back to her run behind Epona Plays at the start of the year over in Ireland, who went on to win the Landwade Stakes of Group 2 in her own right. I think that's absolutely super. From Parents' Prayer, I think 16 to 1. The only thing is the ground, but the weather seems to be a little bit inconsistent. Some days they're telling us it's going to be a good week, some days they're going to tell us there's a lot of rain getting into it, and if a rain got into it, Parents' Prayer will contract in price. You can tell me that for no charge. Just with the fact that probably her best form has come with a bit of dig in the ground. But that being said, by the time she was running at Epsom a few weeks ago, the ground wasn't too bad, and she absolutely blitzed them from the front in a Group 3 affair. She now steps up to Group 2 level, and I think with Holly Doyle back in the saddle, for Archie Watson, who's had a very good season so far as well, this Parents' Prayer could go very close at 16 to 1. The 420, the Prince of Wales Stakes, I was really fancying a day for this race. I put him up anti-post on which bookie, and hasn't been declared, which was a bit of a shame. But sure, look, these things do happen. Probably the ground just going against him. I assume that's the reason why he's been left out. But it leaves me, therefore, with my nap of the day, because it's probably the only horse that's quite short. And it is going to be Lord North, who there doesn't seem to be a friend in the world for Lord North at the moment. And he's drifted out to 5-2. And I just think that's a massive price. Love's been backed into 6-4. Look, Love could absolutely romp this if she was to reappear in the same sort of form. But I got my fingers well and truly burnt backing a few of these O'Brien horses on reappearance last year at Royal Ascot. It's not a profitable thing to do. Yes, Love could win. I'm not saying she won't win, but it's not a long-term profitable thing to do to back these O'Brien horses. First time asking after a big layoff, a bit of a setback. I just can't see why you'd back her at 6-4. Like, I'd much prefer to see her win at 6-4 than that. Instead, backing Lord North, who won this race last year, capitalising on an under-strength Japan, then went over to Maidan a couple of months ago to win the big Group 1 turf race out there. Won that really nicely as well, really cosy as well. So he's in good form. He comes here in the best of his health. He loves this course and distance. He loves this type of ground. And at 5-2, he is my nap of the day. The 5 o'clock, the Royal Hunt Cup. Anyone's race this, as you could tell from the amount of runners, the amount of chances in this. One that's not very not outside the box, and one that maybe is a little bit outside the box. The one not being outside the box is Finest Sound at 7-1. I think he's not a bad price at 7-1. Having been second in the Britannia Stakes last year behind my man Calusi. I thought that was an excellent effort. He's won a couple of times at Haydock. He won at Haydock last time out. He's been raised a couple of pounds for that. Running off a mark of 99. I've always thought he might be better than a mark of 99, and it's interesting that he comes back to a course and distance handicap that he ran in last year. Well, obviously he ran in the Britannia Stakes, which is the 3-year-old version of this race, but he seems to get on well in these big field handicaps, seems to be able to run well in them, and at 7-1 I think he's got a good chance for the Crisfords and Andrea Azzini. The one I'm going to take a pop at, a horse I do like a lot, just stepping back into handicap territory, I think he might have a big chance at a really big price at 28-1 is a Boweman for Ado McGuinness and Ronan Whelan. I backed this horse this time, well, I'd say 14 months ago now, to win the Irish Lincoln, and he was absolutely superb that day. He won off a mark of 97 in Ireland. He won by 2.5 lengths. He's then gone on to finish placed, enlisted in Group 3 races, and obviously won a local Group 2 out in Doha at the start of this season. He's been absolutely dismal the last 3 runs, and I can't put together whether it's been a little bit of a plan to get him back into a race like this, or whether he's just gone off the boil. Very hard to know, but at a price of 28-1, that's a chance I'm willing to take, because if he was to come back to some of his best form, a mark of 106 shouldn't stop him in a race of this nature, because he's actually just stepping back down in grade. He's facing the likes of Broome and Helvic Dream one week, and then he's now facing handicappers the next week. This could well be a bigger chance than 28-1 suggests for Bowerman, and it wouldn't surprise me whether this has actually been a little bit of a plan, as Ado McGuinness is bringing over a couple of horses to run this week. Hopefully some of them run very well. The 5:35, the Windsor Castle Stakes 5 furlong listed race for 2-year-olds. Really, really tricky race. So I'm just going to have the one playing it at a big price. Mick O'Callaghan's horse in this, Admiral D at 20-1. This horse actually broke Mick O'Callaghan's fairly barren run of form when winning at Listowel a couple of weeks ago. He did that quite nicely over 6 furlongs and drops back to 5 furlongs. But he seems to show plenty of pace, as he did on debut when finishing 4th and then at Listowel as well. So I don't think the drop back to 5 furlongs will inconvenience this horse as well. Mick O'Callaghan usually has his 2-year-olds well enough forward, and he's not the type of trainer to just throw horses into races for the sake of it. So that's what I'm really basing it on. Lee Roach takes the ride at 20-1. I'm going to take a small each way poke. And the 6:10, the final race on the day, a mile handicap for fillies, and I've got 2 in this for you. One is Declared Interest, who's a horse I put up for the Sandringham last year and finished 5th, ran a good old race. She's 11-1 for this race, and I think that's not a bad price for a horse that's won her last 2, and she was very impressive at Leicester on reappearance. Rob Hornby takes the ride for Rafe Beckett, both of which, I think off a mark at 89, there is potential possibilities that she could run another big race. As I say, she was really good at Leicester, I thought. was just showed a little bit more of a turn of foot than I thought she ever had before, to be honest. She looked a little bit one-paced over a mile at times, and maybe back in a tougher handicap that might come back to bite again. But at 11 to 1, I think she's a decent enough price for an each-way price and a double figures. The one I'm going to take a play on, and one that's a real kind of left field one, is Apricot Moon for George Bowie and Danny Tudhope at 40 to 1. It's a huge price, so it's worth a couple of quid each way in my book. I think, considering she won on debut for Andy Oliver, and Andy Oliver wouldn't have too many first-time out winners. She won at Dundalk for him first time out. Then he pitched her in the Irish 1000 Guineas last year, where she finished 7th, a very respectable 7th. A race that had the likes of Peaceful in there, Fancy Blue, Valeria Messalina, all those good fillies. Albina was in there. She actually finished right beside Albina in that race. So that was an excellent effort. As a result, she had to be campaigned like a proper group horse, and it didn't really happen for her, let's be honest. She looked a little bit out of her depth. She's now gone over to George Bowie, ran at Nottingham a few weeks ago. I thought that was a complete and utter pipe opener over 10 furlongs at Nottingham, finishing 6th of 8. Showed a little bit of spark, now back down to a mark of 90. Danny Tudhope takes the ride, and George Bowie is going to want to have a Royal Ascot winner. There's no getting away from that. He's a really exciting young trainer with a great crop of horses, great crop of young horses at that. So it wouldn't surprise me if this horse is actually going to have a bit of a squeak at 40 to 1. If she could retake some of that earlier form that we saw as her first start as a 2-year-old, at the start of her 3-year-old career, of a mark of 90, she's really feasibly handicapped to run a big race, and at 40 to 1, I think it's worth a little bit of a nibble. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below so you don't miss out on any more of the Royal Ascot previews throughout this week and all the other flat action that we'll be covering during the summer months. And of course, let me know your selections for day 2 down below. Let me know how you got on today. How was your first day punting wise at Royal Ascot, and what are you feeling for tomorrow? Who's your nap of the day? Who's your selections for the big races? Do let me know, and I'll try to get back to every single one of you. And until next time, where I'll see you guys tomorrow evening, hope you stay safe, stay well, land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.